Like most any other technology that you're beginning to learn, it's important to have your development environment set up in such a way that you'll be able to follow along with whatever material you're going along with. And this course is going to be no different. So before we start to create any sort of Windows Phone applications, it's important to have the proper tools and SDKs set up. Well, thankfully, due to the new website that's kind of been put together recently, dev.windows.com, this process has been made much, much easier, especially when getting started with Windows Phone. Now, in the past, you would have had to have gone and downloaded the Visual Studio instance that's going to work best for you, and then you would have to go and find the SDKs. Now, in some instances, that's still the process, but with the latest invocation of Windows Phone 8.1, if that's the version you choose to use, and by the way, you'll be able to follow along for the most part with all of these lessons within this course, regardless of whether or not you're using Windows Phone 8.1, Windows Phone 8.0, and even Windows Phone 7 in most instances. Now, there are some things you won't be able to do in Windows Phone 7, but you'll still be able to get the idea and follow along. So if you were to head over to dev.windows.com, you'll be able to see that there are a number of the Windows Phone SDKs that are put together here for you. So if you wanted to follow along in this course with Windows Phone 8.1, and you could actually go and download Visual Studio Express 2003 for Windows that it contains Update 2, as well as Visual Studio 2013 with Update 2 or later. It's actually going to contain all of the Windows Phone 8 development tools that you're going to need. Now, the one caveat that you're going to have to take into consideration if you're wanting to do Windows Phone 8 development is that it will require you to be on a development PC that is actually running Windows 8. And that's just kind of the way it is. There's not really a way around it. You could also download or create a virtual machine instance if you're running something less, say Windows 7, and maybe run a Windows 8 on your VM if you choose to not actually run Windows 8 on your desktop. But unfortunately or fortunately, there's no way around that. So if you want to do Windows Phone 8.1 or Windows Phone 8, you're going to need Windows 8. And as you can see, you can get links here to the development tools that are going to include all of your Windows Phone 8.1 development tools. And you can also get updates to the emulators or additional emulators, which could be useful. It's not required, but you could definitely do that should you choose. And if you wanted to jump backwards a step and just do Windows Phone 8 as opposed to 8.1, you can do that as well here by getting the appropriate SDKs and emulators as well. And further down the page, you can even stick with Windows Phone 7 should you choose. Now, do note that I'm going to be using Windows Phone 8.1 throughout this course. So if you want to follow along exactly with what I'm doing, then you're going to want to use that particular SDK and Visual Studio 2013 Update 2 or later running on a Windows 8 machine. Now, as I mentioned before, you will be able to follow along at least to some capacity if you want to use the 8.0 version or even the Windows Phone 7 version. But if you could at all help it, 8.1 is the latest and greatest, and that's typically what we want to go along with. So once you've got all these things downloaded and installed, you'll be absolutely ready to go. But before we start to jump into some code, let's talk about, at a very high level at least, the general topics that we're going to be covering throughout this course.